Gotta get that. Gotta get that Deadpool. You are listening to Secret Identity, the podcast by people who shop at Aldi's for people who shop at Aldi's. I am your host, Troy Bond, with my co-hosts, Mr. Brent Birnbaum, who is
Brent Danger Birnbaum.
What? That can't start. It's too late for that.
You asked me what my middle name was.
I'd be like, call me Buzz.
I can do what I want.
You can do it. I'm just letting you know the judgment that's going to come. We have a very special person on this show today. Will Diamond is here with us. Brent and I started this podcast together at Remedy Diner in New York City, wanting to do a retrospective on Craven's Last Hunt about a year ago. And him and I started doing it in the middle of the summer of New York City. So if you watch the first two episodes, Brent and I are wet.
Soaked.
There was nothing I could do in the edit to save Brent's pit.
It's so true. We wouldn't have this show without Will. He is the producer extraordinaire. We love you, buddy.
I love you both. Hey, everybody. My name's Will Diamond. I'm what happens if Slater Harrison got bit by a radioactive football coach.
It's been a great time to read comic books. Like, what are you guys reading? Are you reading anything for fun?
I'm reading Batgirl Year One, which is I think is on our list, and you guys both recommended to me.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I never liked the whole Barbara and Batman sleeping with each other thing.
Horrible.
The worst decision they made in that timeline.
So bad. She's Dick Grayson's love, and he would never do that, and he would never slap Dick in the face like that. He would never slap Dick like that.
Barbara did. Oh!
What's up?
I love Batgirl Year One because it never, I always looked at Batgirl or anybody in the Bat fam as someone who stanned Batman and wanted to fight with him. She more or less in this one was like, I'm doing this against my dad.
Barbara, why are you doing this to me?
I just don't understand. Dude, somebody came up to me at the show last night and did your impression of Sly Stallone.
Did they really?
He walked up to me and said, what's your name? He said,
Let's go.
And I love the Sly Stone and Jimmy Stewart too. But walking, like, there's a pause that happens when you do your walking. Like, you get into character. I'm like, what would Christopher Walken do if he walked into a bank and there was nobody there? You immediately go like,
the people. There's a robbery going on. I don't want to show my gun, but it's here. It's in my pocket. If I take it out, you're going to lose your money. It's going to be crazy, you know.
Before you guys get into the questions, the number one thing that has happened in the world of nerddom over the last, week and a half?
O.J. Simpson died.
Yeah. Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. Boys, what did we think?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you the first thing I thought was serotonin because you sent it to me after I watched it, and then we all watched it at the same time. And then my father called me after I talked to you guys about it. And it was the reason why I love this podcast is because the world is hard and life is hard. And these things bring people together for 2.5 minutes and gives them months of something to look forward to. And then after that thing comes out, they can own it and have it and watch it as many times as they do. More than anything in the trailer, yes, I know this movie is going to be like an orgasm for my brain. But more than anything, I was like, a comic book movie is bringing people together again.
Can we also talk about how much we called accidentally ahead of time in that trailer? Obviously, there was Troy and I making the Rob Liefeld joke on the Daredevil episode.
Read any Deadpool comic by Rob Liefeld. There's no feet. And they even make a joke about it.
Well, Rob Liefeld can't draw feet.
Who created me? Probably some guy who can't draw feet.
Then there was that kind of B-roll footage of us dressing up as Daredevil and singing Madonna's Like a Prayer. And that was the song in the trailer. And then when we did the trailer breakdown of the first one, and I kept saying, let's fucking go. And that became the mantra of the second trailer.
Let's fucking go. Fucking go. Brent Birnbaum, you called everything in that trailer. And I had a religious experience watching that. I saw somebody on Twitter that said that my friend cut the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine. And when he saw Hugh Jackman in the yellow suit, he cried because he'd waited 20 years for that. Once we get the mask, that's going to be insane. And I don't think that there is a way. when Rogue One came out, my friend was like, "What are you gonna do if this movie's bad?" And I was like, "There's no possible way this movie's gonna be bad. They can never put out a bad Star Wars movie." Then Last Jedi came out, but there's no possible way this movie could be bad. It could be cameo porn. It could be a lot, but I think it could be a lot of fun, which is kind of missing. Will, you had a very interesting theory about why Wolverine destroyed his universe in this one, because in Old Man Logan, was it Professor X's telepathy that kind of went off and killed all the mutants,
that was in the movie.
The movie, right? Yeah, and in the book, it was Mysterio who made him think, and he killed all his friends. And you think that that Jake Gyllenhaal might? What's going on?
If I had to guess, they've said before doing promo for this that they specifically aren't going to change anything with the Logan film. Fox considers Logan the end of the Fox timeline, right? Regardless of if it makes sense or not, and there's X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and then X3, and then Days of Futures Past that completely rewrites X3. But then you've got First Class and Age of Apocalypse. And Fox loves to forget X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is why we have Deadpool and not the Deadpool we saw in that movie.
They love to forget that. I love that. I love that they forget that Will.i.am was Wraith. Got to get that. Got to get that Deadpool.
Did you see the interview clip of the guy who plays the Blob? Every guy who's been in the Fox universe for any X-Men film, they've just been like, "Hey, do you think you're going to make a cameo in it?" And they asked the guy who played Blob, and he tells the story about Hugh Jackman telling him that he was going to get his own Blob spin-off movie.
What?
And he was like, "Yeah, Hugh Jackman told me I was going to be back and they were going to love me and I was going to even get my own movie." I was like, nobody would go see a Blob movie.
And not unless it was called The Blob. Nobody's watching X-Men, right, Brent? I saw you got your
X-Men
shirt. Are you binging
Will and I are watching X-97.
Brent and I have our own separate... You said you don't want to watch it until the end.
Yeah, I did say that.
And I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, that's true. I've had to stay off social media for spoilers.
I have expressed to both of you multiple times, and everybody I talk to about it, if these next 3 episodes continue the momentum that the rest of the season has done, it will be the best project on Disney+.
Better than Mandalorian?
Oh, yeah.
Better than Andor?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, here's the thing with Andor that nobody's really going to tell you. Andor is great, but the more people who said it wasn't good made people who liked it pretend they were better than everyone else. Like, that's, I mean, would you agree with that assessment?
The people who loved Andor, or at least said they liked Andor, are the same people for me who, like, if you ask some random person on the street what the best Star Wars movie is, they'll say Empire Strikes Back, regardless of whether or not they've seen it. They just know that that's the good opinion to have. It's the same thing with Andor, where they're like, well, Andor's great. Not every Star Wars show needs to have lightsabers, and I agree. However, the same people who like Andor then watched Ahsoka and said Ahsoka was bad, and you're like, that's a show all about lightsabers.
And also, the thing about lightsaber choreography that nobody seems to understand is nobody has been around to hold a lightsaber for like 30 years, other than Ahsoka Tano maybe, and Baylan Skoll. Nobody knows how to wield that. Luke doesn't know how to wield it. He hacks. We see him in Mandalorian with a little bit of training go through those droids, but like nobody knows how.
That's the whole point of them making that term Boken Jedi in Ahsoka is Cal Kestis, Luke, Ezra, even Kanan, all of these Jedi who have had to train themselves post the fall of the Jedi Temple.
Do you think Wolverine is that Ronin type? Because he said he destroyed his whole world, and now how did he meet up with Deadpool? I mean, what's going on here? Do you have any speculation?
I think it's what Will said. I think it is the Old Man Logan storyline, because that's what made such an impact on that story. It's not just that the world was destroyed. It's that Wolverine murdered all of the X-Men because Mysterio got inside his head. So I personally don't think it's Mysterio that did it in the movie. I think Cassandra Nova did it.
And who is she?
She's Xavier's twin sister, who is evil, and she was correct me if I'm off base here, Will, but she thought she died. Everyone thought she died in the womb because she was supposed to be Xavier's twin sister, but because she was such a powerful telepath, she survived, created a new body for herself, and then
that happened to my friend Dan.
I'm going to stop myself because I don't want to spoil X-Men, the animated series, but It all ties in with that.
The issue where she is, I don't know if it's introduced, but her backstory is played out. There is incredible panels of a fetus Charles Xavier and a fetus Cassandra Nova in the womb punching each other, and two fetuses having a fist fight. I believe it's not Grant Moore. Is it Grant Morrison's E for Extinction?
Yes, it's Grant Morrison's E for Extinction, and I'm pretty sure Frank Whiteley was the artist on it too.
Oh, I love Frank.
That art is fantastic. Charles Xavier had his mentality as such a strong telepath that he was able to realize what was going on and kill Cassandra Nova in the womb. Xavier's born. Cassandra Nova, her essence or whatever, there's a Shi'ar term that refers to her essence that was able to float around. Who knows if she's going to pop up in 97, but her being in Deadpool Wolverine is an interesting choice.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this 97 thing, I thought for a while that it was their way of microdosing X-Men into the MCU, but I don't think so. It was their way of melding Deadpool and Wolverine and mutants and this new era they're ushering in. What was the first movie after Endgame? Was it Far From Home?
Far From Home.
This is going to be their Far From Home, but like good. I know you love that movie, Brent. I know you love it.
That's why I hope Mysterio is the one responsible for Logan going crazy in Deadpool Wolverine, but I don't think it's him.
And we were talking about this the other day. I don't necessarily think Marvel ever had a flop period. I think it just had its adolescence with the Eternals and with a lot of the things in the last phase. And they did that after Marvel was everything. Infinity War, Endgame, Spider-Man, like everything. And then boom, this is their way of being like, okay, we got to do this again if James Gunn is going to be running DC. Because before, all they had to worry about was Zack Snyder and be like, oh, we're fine. We could put out Iron Man 3 and it'll be better than Batman versus Superman. We're fine.
Oh, no doubt.
And I don't think Kevin Feige ever made bad movies. I think he just was sort of like the George Lucas of the superhero era of like, here's the vision. And everybody was like, sure, buddy. And nobody stepped in until it was the corporate people and it wasn't the nerds. Like Ryan Coogler should direct Blade. I don't understand why he's not. He's directing that Black Vampire movie with Michael B. Jordan, and he should be directing Blade. He should direct the Doctor Doom show. And I think Marvel coming out of this Deadpool movie will realize the standard they set for each other, and hopefully we'll get those on your left moments again. I want to just cry in the theater again.
Do you know what Coogler should direct? Craven, because Coogler loves Craven.
I think we can end or maybe middle Tom Holland's next trilogy with Craven, with the symbiote. Who can they do? Black Cat. They could do
Spider Slayers.
Spider Slayers. Moreland.
I hate Moreland though.
Moreland's too powerful, man, and it just makes no sense.
He's not a Spider-Man villain.
He's not, and they'll do a combined fist Daredevil Disney show if they wanted to make billions of dollars. But I think that a Craven movie as a middle Empire Strikes Back thing would be amazing.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Hugh Jackman has been in, this will be his 10th appearance on screen as Wolverine, as Logan. Do you think this is the last time we will see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
I would say so 2 years ago, but now I don't, because I remember watching him in an interview saying Jerry Seinfeld is the one that inspired him to stop playing Wolverine, because Seinfeld said to him, get out while it's good, and you don't want people to tell you to get out.
You gotta stop doing it. You gotta just finish. People are over. They're done with it. Did he say that? Exactly like that. That was it.
And then he comes back and he does this, because when a buttload of money's backed up to your house, you got to take it. Bale didn't take it for Batman versus Superman when they wanted him to. Jackman, I don't think really had the movie career post Wolverine that Bale did. He did a lot on Broadway. I think that we will definitely see him up to maybe a second Secret Wars movie. Past that, I don't know what you can do.
I'm with Troy. I think we're going to see him in Secret Wars. I think after that, anything goes. I think they eventually will bring in a younger Wolverine for the new X-Men movies, but it's like no one ever expected to see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man again. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it'll be like young Sheldon.
Yeah, it gets butts in seats bringing him back. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's how can we get people in the movie theater? Let's pull somebody who's literally been the face of Wolverine for 20 years, over 20 years. And
the only face.
There are those actors who, just like Hugh Jackman, who are the face of that character with Robert Downey Jr. And I think that honestly, it'll be hard for somebody to replicate or even fill in the shoes if they want to do it differently, because a lot of times the next actor to play the character, they're obviously going to get compared to the first guy to play it. But Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I think he's right up there in that same category.
Ryan Reynolds, Vincent D'Onofrio. I honestly thought John Bernthal would have been a good Wolverine, but I'm glad they're keeping him as Punisher, because for Wolverine, you need a young guy right now. You know, that's a character that's got to be around for 10, 15 years. Like, they can't get an old dude like Carl Urban from The Boys, who we all want, because he's too old. We can't have that. He's got to do the stunts. It's not like when Robert Downey Jr. said, like, as soon as the mask goes up, I go home. Like, Wolverine is doing that Jackman stuff. And Daniel Radcliffe would be perfect. I don't know if he would do another franchise.
He's got the height.
It's got the height. That's the thing. Hugh Jackman was so good at the part that we forgot that Wolverine is a short king.
Brolin was good as Cable, but Cable is like 6'8", not 5'10".
Yeah, and also it was like a week after I saw him as Thanos, and it just wasn't very memorable. Like, I mean, I love Deadpool 2, but I remember Thanos more. Deadpool 2 was great, better than the first one.
Also, the futuristic, like, even just down to his suit for Cable, like, he just looked like a guy who shops at Bass Pro Shops.
Let's do the questions.
Do you prefer long ears or short ears for Batman's cowl?
Long. It's scarier. Long ears are scarier. The short ears on Batfleck make me laugh.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I like the long ears. For me, it's more of a nostalgia thing. I feel like I fell in love with Batman during the Justice League series, the Bruce Timm series, and they specifically made his ears long for that.
And it just adds to because Batman is a silhouette, and it adds to the silhouette. You know, what about you, Will?
I'm a happy medium guy. I lean closer to short ears just because I don't like the super dark vampire style like in the 90s when it was really aesthetically overdrawn and he really looks like a bat and they're like 3 feet off the top of his head, or even in like the late 80s with the blue suit where his ears are crazy long and they look more like antennas.
The blue was rough and his cape was like this. I love Bale's cowl because of the chin. I think that's great. The thing I can't get behind on Pattinson is there is no chin. Like, I mean, like there's a lip, but like it would make sense practically, you know, like so you could do and turn, and they had to go through all that in the Dark Knight. But I guess I'm just sort of getting used to it. But long ears, if you think Batman's main thing is fear, long ears are a lot scarier than short ears. Ben Affleck on steroids on Real Time with Bill Maher yelling at Sam Harris is way scarier than long ears.
Follow up to that from Deezers 8304 on YouTube, one of the true believers on YouTube.
My man Deezers.
If you were going to give Bruce Wayne's Batman a definitive end, how would you do it?
Ooh, Brent?
Oh, me first? That's a good question. I really liked what they did in the Arkham Knight game, where
me too.
Yeah, when he got doxxed and he walks into the into Wayne Manor and it just explodes and he kind of takes I like the idea of him sacrificing himself so Dick and Tim and Damian and I guess Jason and Barbara can carry on the mantle. Yeah.
I agree with you. I would like that, or I would like remember we were reading Long Halloween and he was celebrating capturing the Joker and he was like, okay, wow, I actually did this. And then a couple of panels later, he failed and he went, I'm never going to celebrate this again in my life. I always thought of that as one day you will be able to do that, Bruce. And the Justice League episode with where you find out Terry is a clone of Bruce.
Bruce didn't overwrite your DNA with his. I did.
Perfect ending for that, because that's the ending of the Batman animated series Batman, of a storyline that sprawls and made so many of us fans. I want him so badly to have an ending where he can be like Luke Skywalker looking out into the horizon and go, okay, you know what? I did it. My mission is over. I want him to have a good ending. The Arkham Knight ending is great because that he would have done that. He would have sacrificed himself for all of them. But I want him to have that Dark Knight Rises ending.
I like that.
Where, like, yeah, you deserve
He
that.
does.
But like, you got to be Batman for like 20 more years. You can't do it for a year and a half and then be like, oh, I'm gonna go chill out with Anne Hathaway. Like, I want him to have a happy ending. Does he deserve a happy ending? I don't know.
I did this for a year and a half.
I want him
and
to.
I killed a DA.
Yeah.
I get to retire now.
I can't do this anymore. I killed it. Will?
I truly would love to see the Batman Beyond ending for him where somebody else takes over, Batman becomes the guy in the chair, and he truly, because the best part about Batman Beyond is Bruce cannot be Batman physically. So the only thing he can do is fall into the mentor role and give him that structure and give Terry the learning that he can, rather than, because I'm not the biggest fan of when Batman gets older towards the end of his life and they do that thing in comics where they give him like a mech suit, or let him die and it be the end of his crusade, because truly the only thing that can kill Batman is time. And that's, I think Batman Beyond does that the best.
Beautiful.
Could not have said that better. And the beautiful send-off that Batman Beyond gave us was, it tells you that there's always going to be another Batman. Like, it's supposed to be teed up that Dick Grayson would take over the mantle, but Terry McGinnis is proof that anybody could wear the mask. Anybody could wear the mental. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of hope, and it changes throughout time. I love that the three of us want him to have. 2 out of 3 of us want him to have a relatively good time. Brent wants him to burn up in flames, but
fire everywhere.
hot to meet you.
This is a great follow-up. Who is the best Robin and who could be the best next Batman? This is from Connor DeKing on YouTube. I think those questions are kind of different answers.
Can I go first?
Yes, you can.
Best Robin is Dick. The person who would be the best Batman is Tim.
Oh, interesting.
Because Dick has the physicality. He was the perfect complement to what Batman was doing. I think with a Robin, you need someone who's not as similar as Batman. So Dick has the physical abilities that Bruce has. He doesn't quite have the intelligence of Bruce, but he has a level of empathy that Bruce doesn't have, that they really balance each other out as kind of the perfect partnership. Tim, I think, is the most similar to Bruce because he's got this detective mind. He's the one that figured out that Bruce is Batman. Yeah. Way smarter than any of the other Robins. And so while he might not have quite the level of physical gifts as Jason or Dick, he still has some physical abilities. And with Batman, I think having that intelligence, having that detective ability is much more important than the physicality. That's why I think Tim would be the better next Batman.
You just changed my mind.
Mine was the exact opposite.
Really?
Tim is the best Robin, and I think Dick would be the next best Batman. Dick was always in Bruce's shadow and needed to leave to become that great character. Tim is like Kenan Thompson on SNL, where he could play Robin for the rest of his life and nobody would be pissed at him. That's me. Like, if I saw Tim at 50 as old man Tim and he's still calling himself Robin,
then he would just be Burt Ward.
They call me Captain Dick Print.
I didn't know you were Jewish. Honestly, to your point, Tim is sort of the best Robin. Like, growing up on an animated series, I loved him, and that was sort of the youngest Robin I got to see. Other than who was it in Dark Knight Returns? It was Carrie
or Kelly.
Yeah, Tim's young prowess had the balls to be a Batman and to go out and to do those things. But what changes my mind about him is the return of the Joker. Like, that shows you, if he were to be a Batman successor, he would not have. Granted, he was tortured and lobotomized by the Joker, But if he had that dog in him, that's a job requirement as Batman, he would still say, all right, cool, I'm gonna still be Batman and make sure, because the whole point of why he takes on these wards is so what happened to him doesn't happen to anybody else. And I think Tim might have done that, but I think these are all valid answers because it is contingent on what your relationship with the character is.
I don't think that animated series Tim, though, is really Tim. I think he's called Tim, but I think he's more based off Jason. Like, I think they called him Tim because if they called him Jason, it would have been weird because Jason was dead in the comics at the time. But going back to the fact that he has that connection to Two-Face in the show.
He does. He tried stealing hubcaps from the Batmobile.
That's all Jason.
Wow, I never thought about that because Jason wasn't in that show because they hated him at that point, and they still did
in the comics.
Nobody's ever said to me, "I love Jason Todd." Ever since Arkham Knight, they did a Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan where they went, "Nope, Benedict Cumberbatch isn't Khan," and then in the middle of the movie, he goes, "I'm Khan."
I'm Khan,
and that's exactly what they did in that one. I don't know. You know, tell us it's Khan. I'll be just as excited. I don't care about your big reveals.
Colin FTP off of Instagram says, what are your expectations for the upcoming Superman movie?
I think it's going to be fantastic. And I'm surprised that I think that because I think it's high time for a Superman movie. There was no interest. Superman and Lois is wrapping this year. And that's such a beautiful show because it was on at a time where there was literally no interest for the character. People only wanted dark and Justice Superman. And James Gunn, I don't argue with anybody about him because they can't ever tell me anything when I say this. James Gunn made me care and know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were and who Peacemaker was, and wrote the best DCEU movie of the Suicide Squad. Like, I have a complete faith in the boy. I think Superman Legacy is going to be a little too much cameo porn, but it's going to be a great start to the universe.
I agree with everything you just said. I think Gunn is batting 1,000%, and also the comic he's basing Superman Legacy off of, All-Star Superman.
Put the nerds in charge. Mark Webb, the director of TASM 1, I don't know if he did TASM 2, was a comic. He did TASM 2. Never mind. I'm not going to give him this compliment.
I really like this one. This is from Lemon Crush 06 on Instagram. What superheroes would you switch from one comics company to the other? Here's an example. Spider-Man would end up in DC and Robin would end up in Marvel if those were the two that you picked.
Wow, that's a great question.
I like that.
That's a really good question. You know, I think I would put Green Lantern in Marvel because I could see him working pretty well with Captain Marvel and a lot of the cosmic stuff that Marvel has going on. And if I had to take a Marvel character and put him into DC, it would be Wolverine. Green Lantern for the cosmic stuff, Wolverine for the grit street level stuff. You could put him somewhere like Gotham or Metropolis or Central City.
Can I do a 2-for-2?
Yes, please.
I want to move Booster Gold and Shazam into Marvel. Booster Gold because I think he's one of my all-time favorite comics characters. I think he's got so much depth to him that you don't normally see with DC characters. I've said this before, the fact that he was this reluctant superhero, that he came to the past for celebrity and goes on this great hero journey, I think fits more with Marvel. And then Shazam, just because I want to call him Captain Marvel. I don't like calling him Shazam. That's Captain Marvel to me.
So does Stanley.
Marvel. And then for the Marvel characters, let's move Galactus and Surfer into DC. I think they do well in Genesis and Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah. That Galactus would be the threat to Darkseid.
Yeah, that's honestly where my mind went to, is anybody from that Kirby era. They all kind of felt like they were... You could pull anybody that Kirby was drawing during that time and had a hand in, and they all kind of feel like their own separate universe at times. Yeah, they can, like the New Gods and Surfer and Galactus, you can put all of them in one world. Honestly, if I had to choose, I would choose a lot of street level people. Like easy flip would be like a Daredevil Batman.
I was thinking that.
I would love to see that. I also would love to see the flip of Daredevil having to deal with like a family situation because Daredevil has never had a sidekick. You can't count, I mean, unless you count Elektra, which I don't count that.
That's a side piece. That's a side chick. Oh, hey, we'll be right back after these apologies.
Brent, we're on the same track with the Kirby stuff. I really like this question. This is from Grim the Shinigami. P.S. Love what you guys are doing. First comic book that you read that made you a fan.
Brent, I would love to hear your answer.
Ultimate Spider-Man #1. It wasn't the first comic I ever read. That was a Ghost Rider comic, but that was at St. Mark's Comics. I picked it up, and I wanted more Ghost Rider comics. And the guy there was like, try this comic. It's taking Spider-Man. It's reimagining his origins in a modern retelling. And you and I, Troy, we've talked about this a ton. We think Ultimate Spider-Man, the Bendis Bagley run, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest run by an artist in the history of comics. And it all came from that one issue. Because I've read nearly all of Amazing Spider-Man because Spidey is my favorite character.
All right, save some ass for the rest of us. I would say Ultimate Spider-Man was the one that, as an adult, I fell back in love comics with, but as a kid, the comics that I read, my dad was a huge Batman, Spider-Man stan. I didn't read as many of those as I watched animated series. It was honestly the Dark Horse Star Wars comics that were out, the Darth Maul, the Wookiee ones, like 3-4 years old, where you can just sort of look at the art and understand the story, what was going on. And as I got older, I started to become a reader because of comic books, because like I could understand the movie I was directing in my head, even though it didn't have pictures in front of me. And then when I was 13, I read Watchmen and Long Halloween in 7th grade, and that made me the comics fan I am now. Like those two, I would say, are the ones that propelled me into comics. And the one that brought me back to comics in the last 3 years was Dan Slott's Spider-Man Big Time Volume 2. I read that about 10 times, and I went, man, comic books are so much fun because I didn't need an iPad. I didn't need a phone charger. I just needed a book and a tree to sit under.
It's funny you say that because those are literally what you said, Brent, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Troy, what you said is Long Halloween. It was same thing is I didn't start off loving superheroes from comics. It was me turning on the TV on Saturday morning and being like, oh, Spider-Man, X-Men, they're doing reruns of X-Men, Batman animated series, Justice League Unlimited, stuff like that was like what I was into. And then
that made you a superhero fan? That made me a superhero fan. Yeah.
Yes. It's stuff like that. And then I was like, then I went back and I tried to go find the ancient sacred Jedi texts and go find comic books and figure out where everybody was. And that's where my collection of comic books started from.
You are Jocasta new with comics, man. Like the comics you give me, I read faster than I read ones that I buy myself because I'll pull out one and I'm like, oh, and you'll be like, oh, dude, you're gonna like that one. It's so crazy. Batman travels to the year 2037 and reinvents racism. It's wild. And I'm like reading it, being like, I don't know if I like this. Then by the end, I'm like, that boy good. That boy Will Diamond. That boy good.
You recommended Batman Ego to me, Will.
Batman Ego's great. I still think you both, and I know I keep saying this, it's on both of your list, is Last Night on Earth.
I'm on fourth issue of that because you were with me when I bought that.
Yeah, it's just like you say, Troy, where like the beginning, you're like, I don't know how I feel about this, and then you get to the end, and you're like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a patience that I learned from comics, or I learned again, like reading Secret Wars, the one that came out in 2015. I was like, yo, what the fuck? What's going on? I don't know. I want to cry. And it wasn't until the book was over where I was like, oh, that's what experiencing new media is. Like, you're not supposed to know everything.
What are your thoughts on it? And then in parentheses, they wrote, please cover Under the Red Hood on Secret Identity. This is from Shruptastic on Instagram.
I would say Under the Red Hood, definitely on the list. Thoughts on Invincible? I think Invincible is excellent. I put it up there, honestly, with X-97 as just kind of the gold standards of adult animation right now, kind of a callback to that Tim and Dini era. I did not like the pacing necessarily of season 2. I didn't like how it was broken up. I feel they could have. I don't.
You know why that happened?
Yeah. Wait. Why?
The strike, and then The animators came back and they were like, you guys got to put these episodes out. And they even made a meta joke in one of the episodes talking about why the animation didn't look like the way it was supposed to, because it's a beautiful show. They animated essentially, from what I understand, seasons 2 and 3 simultaneously, so there wouldn't be this gap. And those guys were just worked crazy. So they acted like the narrative break was so we could process Mark got his shit rocked by the Viltrumites. But that's not what happened.
I think they should have done the Angstrom stuff earlier. I felt like doing Angstrom in the first episode and the last episode kind of ruined his impact. I wish they was more kind of split up, like done the Angstrom storyline and then done the Viltrumite storyline. But that's just me.
Because those are two incredibly important and very different storylines, especially like the show is panel to panel faithful to the book, I would say. It just tells the story in different parts. And for TV medium, it works. Angstrom is probably one of the most terrifying arch nemesis you could have as a hero. And everybody loves to make the joke that, why do they call him Invincible if he keeps getting his shit rocked? Because he gets up every time. That is the whole point of Mark Grayson. And he is not his father. He saw his father try to seduce him with ultimate power. And he goes, and that line, it makes me choke up a little bit, where he goes, in 500 years, then they're all gone. What will you have?
I still have you.
That was the humanity that made him fly off and go, shit, am I developing feelings? And then he's on the planet where he's clapping cheeks, the thoraxes, and he's like, yeah, man, I thought I had feelings. I just had to bust some rope. And now you got to take this purple baby back home to Sandra Oh, because she quit Grey's Anatomy and got a lot of time on her hands. I think the best character on that show, Cecil.
Cecil's the man, dude. Walton Goggins.
Oh, my best name in show business.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when Cecil is wrong, he's right about what he's wrong about, man. Like, you got to be running that agency and making sure that you are controlling every superpowered person ever. And they start the show off with him under his watch. The whole Justice Friends or whatever they're called get killed, and it makes sense for what do they call themselves? Do you remember?
The Guardians of the
Guardians of the Globe. I would say Invincible. Brent and I were gonna do Spawn, but Spawn is so hard because there's so many. Invincible is my favorite Image story. 2 volumes, 2 giant compendiums. They're one I picked up that I did not put down because they were just that good. I
need to finish it. But yeah, I like that you said Cecil's the best character. Actually, my favorite character is his number 2. I like Donald.
Donald?
Yeah.
I like Donald too, because Donald's the first number 2 I've ever seen stand up to number 1 like that. You're like, yo, I'm a clone. What the fuck, Cecil?
Exactly. Like, he really gets a moment to shine in season 2 when he's talking to the guy who, like, D.A. Sinclair fucked up. And, like, Donald's like, your body might not be what it is, but you still have your mind. Like, you're still you.
That's a trippy thing to think about, man. Like, your life is what makes you. Like, you can't, your brain, like, you getting up this morning and the way you did it, the way you put water in that mug, like, that's going to play an impact on something you do later today, because we're just unique human beings. And I think that's sort of the Donald dilemma there is, am I still me? That's a scary thing to have. Like, how many times in sci-fi you see like a robot rip his flesh skin off and it's just like, no, I can't eat pussy. I have no lips. That's sort of like what Donald's going through. And then you sort of get to a point where it's like, well, I guess it's for the good.
Triv Sauce on YouTube asks, will Deadpool and Wolverine break the No Way Home numbers?
No.
And then I pulled the numbers just so we have them. No Way Home was 1.9 billion. Deadpool 1 was 780 million. Deadpool 2 was 785 million. And just to throw it in there, just because it's the last time we saw Wolverine, Logan was only 619 million.
The R rating alone is going to prevent it from breaking the No Way Home numbers.
And also, you're never going to... Spider-Man 3 is made what, like $1 billion? You're never going to beat Spider-Man, ever. Don't ever bet against him in the box office, because whether it's Into the Spider-Verse, whatever, it's always Spider. I mean, I don't think that should be a metric of what's a better movie or not. I just think betting against Spider-Man is like betting against the house at a casino. It's just not going to work, because he's the most iconic character of all time and always will be. What do you think, Brent?
I'm in complete agreement. I think Spider-Man is always going to be more iconic than Deadpool, and like the R-rated movie thing. And I think also Marvel needs to prove that they can make good movies again. It's just been miss after miss. Guardians 2 was
We have to make good movies again. We're not making good movies again. When I left office, when he was there, all of a sudden you had Chris Evans. He was there, caught the shield on your left. I go, oh my God, all of a sudden I see this guy. His name is Kung Fu Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi comes out. He fights with a dragon. He was not born here in this country, but he lives in San Francisco. We're going to change that. I see Salma Hayek, great titties. I look at her. I go, eternally I will stare at you. I want to see.
I'm sick of these Marvel movies. Why can't we go back to old-fashioned rom-coms? That's what we want.
I want to see that. I want to see 8 episodes of Matt Murdock inside of She-Hulk. And it will be called We Hulk. Because we all experienced it. That's how we shall cap this episode of Secret Identity. Viewer Mail Part 2. Good evening, I'm Tom Tucker, and thank you for watching Secret Identity. If you enjoyed the episode, go fuck yourself and follow us at Secret Identity Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We are active on both now. Please follow Will at Diamond Figs. Follow Brent at Brent Birnbaum. Slater is not here today. She's sick. Please send her a message. Best wishes at Slater Harrison. Thank you for, I'm not wearing my Secret Identity bracelets, but I have one for all you guys. They're right over here. Thank you for everybody who's been bringing one of the true believers brought me this shirt on the road in Philly. The love you guys give us makes me cry. And it's why we do the pod. And I can tell you, the three of us off screen talk all the time about how much we love doing this podcast because of you. So we love your interactions. We're going to do call-ins. We're going to do live events. We have a lot of stuff happening, and it's because of you that we're continuing to do that. So please continue to support us, and we will continue to be virgins for you. I will see you guys next week. May the force be with you.